Welcome to the Transformative Neurotherapy podcast with your host, Dr. Heather Putney, founder and executive director of Transformative Neurotherapy. This is the place where healing happens faster. Because let's face it, your brain doesn't come with an owner's manual until now. Here, we take a holistic approach to brain health, bringing together science, mind-body harmony, and the tools you need to optimize your well-being. Whether you're a high performer, executive, athlete, longevity hacker, or just someone tired of your brain working against you, Dr. Putney is here to help you unlock your full potential. From brain fog to chronic stress, we're covering it all so you can finally experience brain health, mind harmony, and total well-being. Ready to get unstuck? Let's get started.
Discover how targeted brain training can lift the fog of depression and restore emotional balance without relying solely on medication. Welcome, everyone. I'm Julie Schwenzer, co-host and producer in the studio with Dr. Heather Putney, founder and executive director of Transformative Neurotherapy. Dr. Heather, it's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Nice to be here with you too, talking about such an important subject of depression.
So let's jump in. What specific brainwave patterns are commonly associated with depression?
Great question. And I love that we started with the brainwave patterns, because with the way we approach the work, it is essential for us to get that initial brain scan to kind of understand what's going on for the client. The truth is that people can present with depression. So the symptom looks the same, but the underlying cause is very different. And then we kind of go into detective mode once we get that first scan to kind of figure out, like, why is this the symptom that this client is experiencing? And so in the literature, there's multiple different patterns, different types of brain patterns that can create the symptomology. And the treatment is actually going to be different for each pattern. So one of the most common patterns, or one very common pattern that's really frequent in the literature, is that the hemispheres of the brain are imbalanced. So like the left side of the brain is it's not firing as much as the right side. So the right side's going a little faster. The left side's a little bit slower. So it's got an imbalance in the hemispheres. And so one of the ways that we can work with that, with neuromodulation, is that it is such a cool precision tool that we can actually activate the left hemisphere to kind of activate it. And then also the right side that's like running a little harder, we can actually kind of like calm down and soothe and kind of like tell it to take a chill pill for a little bit, and we're going to speed this side up so that the brain can end up being a little bit more balanced. And you can see that people responding better that way. Other people have different types of presentations where maybe the whole frontal lobe is firing. It's kind of like it's groupthink. It's lost that flexibility. It's kind of like hypercoherent. It's not able to kind of respond to nuances in the environment. It's kind of like on or off. And so working on kind of like creating that more flexibility in the prefrontal cortex, and that's the front of the brain, and that's where so many our executive functions that we need, that when it's offline we see some ADHD symptoms, but it's also part of our emotional regulation center is in the prefrontal cortex, and so and where mood disorders live. So, working on basically improving the brain's flexibility, is another thing that we can do depending on the type of presentation that we see.
And how does neurotherapy lessen the effects of depression?
Like I said, it depends on the specific profile of the client. But like, for example, when I talked about the imbalanced brain, we can actually make the brain more balanced. And so as the brain is more balanced, then they feel more, their equilibrium is different and they feel better. Some of the common, it's pretty impressive, the results and how fast people can feel some of the results initially. I've had several clients, maybe even after their first treatment with, depression. And they said, when I got here, the world felt gray. The world just felt gray. It felt, depressing. And then like after one treatment, it's like the light, there's more light out and the colors are more vivid. I mean, I've had several clients say that. Now, that doesn't mean that it's a one and done. Neurotherapy is kind of like physical therapy for the brain. One treatment isn't enough to like change things forever. It's like you have to learn a new skill until you can apply it and then you can hold it. So each treatment's kind of like a training session, and over time the brain gets it and it can hold that new pattern without the assistance of additional treatment or medications. Medications can work really well for some of our clients, but it kind of temporarily shifts the balance, and then when the medication goes off, it goes back. The cool thing about neurotherapy is that the brain, if we can teach the brain how to do something different or to be more in balance, then once it learns how to do that, it's going to keep doing that thing. And it'll keep doing that unless maybe there's a brain injury or something else that kind of throws it off balance again, and it might need a tune up. But I love how it's, after a series of treatments, it's a longer term cure, not just, as long as I've got the med and it balances, and if my body adjusts, it quits working as well. That's not how this works.
And I just want to throw in a couple quick questions too. How long is a session or treatment, and do you give homework to your patients after that treatment, or something that they need to exercise at home?
Great questions. So a standard treatment session is about, we schedule it in the therapeutic hour basically, but there's a setup time. We kind of measure where they're at. We track their symptoms and, make some measurements, get all the equipment set on. But we normally do between 30 and 40 minutes of actual treatment. And then, we get it, and then we take the equipment off and, send people on their way. So, we block out an hour, but you're talking about 30 to 40 minutes of actual treatment time. And so that's what one session looks like. But how quickly people shift, it really kind of depends on what's going on. And, but generally, some people will come in for intensives. Maybe they're just in a really bad funk and they want to move the needle really fast. They can do as many as 2 treatments a day for a week. And we've seen people massively, move the needle. So maybe after 10 sessions, their brain looks very different and they feel very different. Like I said, some clients will feel a treatment effect right after that first session. They will the light literally just came out more, and the colors are brighter, but after that, the treatment effect lasts between 24 and 48 hours, and the brain needs to be taught again, what to do until it, like I said, figures it out and can do it in between sessions. So we usually start with more frequent sessions and then kind of ease off over time. So we usually recommend a minimum of 3 treatments a week for 3 weeks, and then we can kind of back down as we're tracking symptoms, and whatnot. And it just really depends. Some people's brains are faster responders than others, but this is not a long-term therapy. It's much more short-term than other options. You're probably not going to be in the range of hundreds of treatments like it would be even with neurofeedback, unless you've got like some major brain injury that we're really trying to rehabilitate, and developmental delays, major brain stuff like that. Those things can take a really long time. But most of the stuff, depression, anxiety, these types of things, those shift so much faster.
And last question for you. Do you find that you have to recommend any complementary therapies to some clients, in addition to what you're treating them with in your office?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I guess this brings me back to your previous question about do they have homework in between? And I would say this is something that I underappreciated before I started into the world of EEG and understanding the brain the way I do now, is we encourage people, that whole lifestyle, that holistic lifestyle. So eating healthy, moving your body, but one of the most important things is sleep, trying to get good sleep hygiene. Is there anything that you're doing that's messing up your sleep? Are you drinking caffeine too late in the day? Caffeine, by the way, has it's 12 hours to get it out of your system. So 6-hour half-life. So, you might be, that afternoon or late afternoon caffeine might be part of the reason why you're not getting such great quality sleep. Sometimes with these depressed clients, sleep is one of the core issues. And so that's one of the things we're working on balancing, is improving their sleep quality. As they sleep better, they feel better. Look at little kids or us when we're sick and we're not sleeping well, how irritable are we? right? And how we can't handle stresses in our life very well. We might feel more depressed because we don't have energy. So sometimes the depression, the underlying issue might be a sleep issue. And so that's one of the things we're working on balancing by improving the sleep quality. But we definitely counsel and coordinate with the clients around, doing healthy things for their brain to kind of maximize the effects of the treatment we're doing. And sometimes we're also coordinating with other professionals, psychiatrists, chiropractors, functional medicine doctors, around what they're doing. So.
Oh, Dr. Putney, this was great. Thank you for shedding light, literally, during this video on this powerful approach to healing. We'll see you next time on the Transformative Neurotherapy podcast.
Thank you very much.
You've been listening to the Transformative Neurotherapy podcast with Dr. Heather Putney. Remember, your brain isn't supposed to hold you back. It's supposed to power you forward. So stop letting it crash your party and start letting it do its job. If you're ready to optimize brain health, sharpen your focus, and age like a fine wine, schedule your free consultation today at transformativeneurotherapy.org or call us at 412-204-7397. Because here, healing happens faster. See you next time.